Next up is going to be the receivers. We've got three positions here. These are going to be my projections based on how I think they fit into Iowa State's scheme. But remember that Iowa State kind of moves the receivers all over the place. It's not necessarily that, a starter and a backup could be on the field at the same time, just playing two different positions. This is just kind of, I'm formatting it the way Iowa State typically formats his depth chart. So first up at the X should probably be no surprise here, but that is going to be Chase Soul, the transfer from East Carolina. I think if you look at his tape looks so similar to what Jaden Higgins looked like at Eastern Kentucky. I think you'd be silly to not try to use him basically the same way if he has picked up the offense and is ready to go. His skill set is, the skill set and athleticism are absolutely there. He can be a great receiver for Iowa State. And I expect him, even if it's not against Kansas State where he goes for, 8 catches for a $120 or something like that. I think at some point in the season, we will see a game where Chase Soul gets 6-8 catches for 120 yards type of thing. We'll see at least a couple 100-yard games out of Chase Soul this season, I think. Backing him up, I have Brett Eskilson. You could probably put Brett Eskilson at any of these three spots, the X, the M, or the Z, just because his skill set just kind of works at a lot of different positions. But I'm going to say he's backing up Chase Soul for right now, but you could absolutely put Chase Soul and Brett Eskilson on the field at the same time and have Brett Eskilson line up in the slot or something like that. At the M position, which is what Iowa State calls their slot receiver, Xavier Townsend, with Eli Green backing him up. Xavier Townsend, the transfer from UCF, which we've talked about a number of times on here, was originally committed to Iowa State as a running back. UCF used him a lot as, on jet sweeps, tunnel screens, bubble screens, stuff in the short and intermediate routes to really get him the ball in space and let him do things after the catch. That is where his skill set fits nicely. But Xavier is absolutely one. You could stick him out in the Z and let him run a deep let him run a deep backside post or something like that. He's got the speed to do that. So, but I really think that here Xavier Townsend makes a lot of sense. Eli Green makes a perfect sense as a backup. Similar skill wise to Xavier. And he was the backup to Jalen Knoll last year at this exact same position. So Eli Green feels like the obvious one here, assuming he's had a decent camp. At the Z position, so this is the other guy slotted out wide, or I shouldn't say slotted, the other receiver out wide across the formation from Chase Soul in most situations. I have my starter listed as Dominic Overby with Daniel Jackson backing him up. So Dominic Overby, coming out of high school, he's like 6'4", 6'5". He was a long jump champion in the state of Utah. Runs a sub 11 100-meter dash, which is unbelievable. Especially at his size, that's really, really impressive. And he comes to Iowa State. He played a little bit last season, looked good. Did have one pass that he kind of dropped / it ricocheted off his hands and when it became a pick for Rocco, but otherwise played pretty well. His upside is really intriguing here. If he can, get his footwork down and really hone his craft in his short and medium route running and his deep route running as well, obviously. He's a guy that you can stick at a lot of positions. He's tall enough. You probably don't want to put him in the slot necessarily, but you could. But his long speed especially makes him a really, really big asset on deep routes or on like kind of deep crossing routes, things like that, like for first downs. His speed is hugely valuable there. I'm not sure, 100% like what he would look like, catching a drag route and then turning it upfield type of thing, like you saw with Jalen. He's got the speed to do it. Does he have the tight space agility to do that? I don't know. Maybe he does. We just haven't seen a lot of it yet. But I really like Dominic Overby's upside. And from everything I've heard is that he's had a really, really great camp and had really, really good scrimmages up to this point. So I'm going to go with him. Daniel Jackson at the Z there. I did see a comment up here about from Brian, yeah, that he's a really, really nice route runner that he could fit really good in the M slot. Totally agree. You could absolutely put Daniel Jackson in the M, or he can run alongside Overby or alongside Soul or whatever you want to do. The reason I don't have him starting is because he has not played a lot of football in the last few years. 2023, he was healthy for a decent chunk of the season, missed all of last year. I think it's just a matter of him getting back up to speed. But the ability is absolutely there. Just it's a matter of how quickly he's going to get up to speed, whether or not he's getting a lot of snaps early on. Okay, next up is tight end, which is arguably the best position group on the entire roster. I don't think this is going to be any sort of secret. Ben Bramer and Gabe Burkle leading the way here. Ben Bramer is a 6'5", 6'6" guy that runs a lot like a receiver, just a big, tall receiver. To me, this is a guy where if you can get him in the seam, if you can get him in the seam running vertical at a safety and making a safety deal with his size, or you're running him on something like a corner route where he has the ability to sort of box out a defender, I think that's a big matchup problem that Iowa State can create for a lot of teams. There are not a lot of teams that have a defender that can match up physically with Ben Bramer in the passing game. He's a good blocker too, but his most valuable contribution to the team is going to be as a pass catcher. There's going to be some sets where they line up in 12 personnel with Chase Soul, Xavier Townsend, and Ben Bramer. Ben Bramer split out in the slot with Gabe Burkle attached to the line of scrimmage. They're going to run that at some point. I would be shocked if they didn't run that exact set at some point. This is a great point too here from Brian. People who poo-poo our losses at receiver forget Ben Bramer was hurt and is back healthy. Absolutely. People are completely forgetting that when healthy, Ben Bramer is the best tight end in the Big 12. I don't want to hear if you don't agree, debate a wall. I don't care. Ben Bramer is the best tight end in the Big 12 when he's healthy, and he's a Mackey Award guy. He's a Mackey Award caliber player when healthy. When healthy is the whole kicker, but when he is, and we're going to try to assume that he can stay healthy, he is a massive, massive problems for defenses to game plan around, and he will open up so much in the running game and for the rest of the receiving group too. So these two leading the way, but Gabe Burkle had a great second half last season and had a really, really nice Pop-Tarts Bowl, made a great catch to open on, I would say, its opening drive. Just nice fingertip catch over a couple linebackers. Great play, good player. One of Iowa State's best run blockers. He'll be on the field quite a bit. And I probably with Bramer quite a bit too. You'll see I was saying a lot of 11 and 12 personnel with, some dipping in. They've got the receiver group, I think, to do some 10 personnel, some 4 wide type stuff. And I think they've got the tight end personnel to go into 13 or even 14 personnel, as Taylor Mauser mentioned today in his media availability. So we're going to see. So behind Ben Bramer and Gabe Burkle, there is going to be Cooper Alexander. He was a high 3-star tight end coming out of the state of Oklahoma, who Oklahoma themselves, the Sooners, wanted. But Iowa State obviously Iowa State got his commitment over the Sooners, and he will factor in here someplace. He's a great receiver, and he's going to be in here somewhere. I don't know exactly how this rotation is. This guy's much like the linebackers, which we'll talk about in a while, where I'm not exactly sure how they're going to shake out who plays when. But that's to me the challenge here is figuring out how to distribute these snaps in a way that takes the best advantage of everybody's talents and abilities. So move to the F back spot, previously known as the Sam Buckner spot or the Dylan Sainer spot or the Steve O'Clott spot, is now the Tyler Moore spot. Tyler Moore is going to be the new F back. He's going to be the tight end that will occasionally, leak out to get something in the flat or whatever, or maybe on a wheel route, something like that. But he's going to be, when you see Tyler Moore on the field, ideally this is not, him being on the field isn't too much of a tell, but when he's on the field, that's Iowa State getting an extra run blocker out there to try to, get something on a heavy set or something like that. You'll see him on the field for sure. Behind him, I have Trip Walsh. This could be a number of different guys, and they'll just with the way the personnel is, they'll just get the whoever makes sense out there. I put Trip Walsh. It could be Keaton Roscoff. It could be Jack Bjorn. Could be a number of different guys there. That's just my best guess as of right now.